Greetings. My name is Letitia Hensley, and I'm the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Director of Family and Community Engagement. We are excited that you are joining us today and know you will gain great insight from this session. At the conclusion of today's session, please provide feedback so that we can continue to support you with amazing sessions that will be provided throughout the year. Now, without further ado, we'll turn it over to our presenters.
We are so glad that you're with us this afternoon. We do have a bit.ly here in case anybody wants to pull up the slide deck as well. There will be some links that you can access afterwards. So I'd like to introduce, before we go any further, this is how we do translation support. So in the up top right corner, you will click Captions. And then you can click Show Live Captions and then select your language for translation. And I'll give you a few seconds in case that is something you would like to do. And then how do we engage during the session? Also in the top right corner, you can click Q&A for questions and answers, and you can type your question into the box. Those questions will be monitored, and we will have time to answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Please feel free to share your reactions during the presentation as you see appropriate. And I've already seen a few of those, so keep those coming. Thank you so much. And here is how you can submit feedback. So we definitely want to hear from you. And this is the link that you can submit feedback after the session. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mara Kobe, and I am the K-12 World Languages Curriculum Specialist for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. And I have been in this role for over 18 years, so I'm glad to have a few moments with you today. Here is my contact information. That's my email address and my phone number. And please, if you have questions after this session, feel free to reach out. You will also hear from a little bit later during our session from Christina Mahar. She is our Global Studies Specialist, and that is the best email to reach her because she'll be speaking to you about study abroad opportunities for students. So I sort of want to work backwards. Some of you may have very young students. Some of you may have students in middle school or high school. We want to really understand what's going on. What do the universities in North Carolina and around the state and our region expect with world languages to be able to enter into their programs? So last year, the UNC system schools, which includes UNC Charlotte, Chapel Hill, Appalachian State, NC State, and so on, they changed their expectations for students entering. And instead of requiring 2 years of a world language, they're making a strong recommendation for 2 years or more. But they've also given some flexibility. And so we just wanted to let you know that that is a shift. So they still recommend for the more competitive schools that they look at 2 years or more. Some are still looking at students who have 3 or 4 years, but to at least be eligible to apply, it is no longer required. We still in the district recommend that students take at least 2 years of a world language because that UNC system schools only represent 16 institutions in North Carolina. We have a lot of private institutions and then of course other schools outside of North Carolina that students may wish to attend for university. And most of those universities are looking for students who've studied 2 years or more of a world language. I'm actually going to give you just a brief snapshot on the next slide. So just for example, Duke is looking for students who have at least 3 years of a language. Wake Forest is looking for at least 2. Elon is requiring 2 but wants 3 or more, and so on. You can see all of these other options. So if that's something that is on your radar, something you're thinking about, you would want to look at what each individual institution is recommending or requiring to be eligible for admission. So now let's kind of bring our focus back to the K-12 part of it. What languages and programs do we offer in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools? So a lot of you know that Spanish is an option, but if you look at this handy dandy infographic, we actually offer 7 different languages in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. So American Sign Language, Mandarin Chinese, French, German, Japanese, Latin, Spanish. We also have a pathway for our heritage and native Spanish speakers that would start them into a pathway for honors courses and get them into more advanced levels a little bit more quickly. In addition to just all of those languages, some of those are also offered as an exploratory in the elementary. Some of them start as dual language immersion. We have dual language immersion in 5 languages of these 7. So I just wanted you to be aware that it's not just, oh, I want to take my 2 years of Spanish. You have many other options. So let's talk about dual language immersion and explain what that is and where that's offered and which languages we have for those programs. So just to explain about dual language immersion, these are considered additive programs. This means that we are adding a language in addition to what the student is already bringing from home. And of course, in addition to English instruction. So all of the students in our dual language immersion programs are working towards biliteracy and multiculturalism. So students in our one-way programs are developing their English while they're also acquiring Chinese, French, German, or Japanese. And then in our two-way programs, we have students who are either acquiring English and developing their Spanish, or they are acquiring Spanish while they develop their English. So what does that look like? The one-way programs are a little bit different from the two-way programs. And this little piece of a graphic from our school choice office gives a little bit of the differences about if it happens in the entire school or if it's a track within a school and how that usually happens. Most students enter our programs into kindergarten, although we do have a late entry option for students in grades 1 through 8 who have that language experience. And that is a process that is handled through the school choice office. The key thing with dual language immersion is that the students are learning their core content in their immersion language. The percentage of how much is happening in English versus how much is happening in the immersion language will vary by grade level and program. So let's talk about our two-way programs. Most of them are in K-8 schools. We have a couple strands in a couple of K-5 schools. We'll talk about which schools in a moment. The purpose of our two-way programs is about half of the students speak Spanish at home and half of the students speak English or another language at home. And so they are serving as language models for each other. And the content in the program is delivered in this case, Spanish and English. So in kindergarten, almost everything is in Spanish so that everybody has a strong baseline when they enter the program. They might have their special areas like art or PE in English. And then in grades 1 through 8, they will have Spanish literacy, they will have science in Spanish, and they will have math in Spanish. They will also then have English literacy and social studies in English, and the specials will usually be in English. Sometimes they are offered in Spanish. That will depend on staffing in that building. This is where our current two-way programs are located. So we have Charlotte East Language Academy. The immersion program has articulated all the way to 7th grade, and those students will be in 8th grade next year. Collinswood is at K-8. Oak Lawn is K-8. All 3 of those are magnet programs, 100% magnet programs. We have a strand of two-way dual language immersion at Huntingtown Farms. It is an IB magnet program, so you have to already be attending Huntingtown Farms to join their dual language immersion classrooms. And then Winterfield Elementary is a neighborhood school that also has dual language immersion in some of their classrooms. They are articulated up to 3rd grade so far this year. If you have more questions about those, please let us know. And then we have our one-way programs, which usually the students do not speak that language at home. Occasionally we get a handful that do. The grade level content is delivered in that immersion language, whether that's Chinese, French, German, or Japanese. And so in French and German, they don't have any English instruction except for special area classes until 3rd grade. So everything that they do in their classroom is in French or German in grades K2. Now for Chinese and Japanese, because the writing systems are a little bit different than how we do our writing systems in writing in English, they do get a little bit of English instruction in Chinese and Japanese so that the students will be able to hit the ground running in 3rd grade when we add more English. This is what it looks like for French and German. There's a little bit more of the target language happening because the writing systems in French, German, and English are parallel enough. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, for Chinese and Japanese, they have a little bit of extra English in grades K2, which is why those graphs look a little bit different. So our current one-way programs are in 2 schools. We have the North Academy of World Languages, which offers Chinese, French, and German. They're articulated up to 4th grade this year and will continue through 8th grade as they grow. And then we have the South Academy of International Languages, which was previously known as Waddell Language Academy, and prior to that, Smith Language Academy. They offer Chinese, French, German, and Japanese. The Japanese program is available to anybody in the entire district, regardless of transportation zone. But for Chinese, French, and German, those are split where South serves the blue and green zones and North Academy serves the violet zone. And just a little bit of clarification, because we have so many different languages happening in the same building, K through 8, when we get into middle school, we are not able to offer all the core content in their languages. So that becomes just language continuation in grades 6 through 8, but it still gets them to a very high level of proficiency in their immersion language. So here's a snapshot also from the schoolchoice.org website, or the CMS Choice website. This is what these specific pathways look like when they're in middle school, and then where they would go on into high school. So currently, South Mech is the high school continuation for these programs for the blue and green zone, and North Mech is the continuation for the violet zone. You also can enter into the South Mech or North Mech World Language programs in 9th or 10th grade if that is an area that you are interested in where you would like to go into high levels of proficiency in our various languages. So just a couple of notes for those of you who are thinking about what your students might register for if you have a middle school or high school student and you're thinking about registration right now. If students are going to be in a world language pathway, whether they come out of dual language immersion or not, we want to make sure that we don't have long gaps. Like if they don't want to start in level 1, let's say in middle school, and then wait until 11th grade to take level 2, they're not going to be as successful. Keep in mind that more selective universities are going to look for students who start their world language pathways earlier and continue all the way through high school into very advanced levels like AP or IB or the Cambridge tested levels. And just taking regular levels 1 and 2 are not going to build a super high level of language proficiency. Our students deserve the opportunity to develop their language proficiency as far as they can. So we want to open more doors for them by allowing the opportunities for those extended pathways. Now, in our middle schools, they are supposed to offer an opportunity for high school credit in every K-8 or middle school in the district. 7th graders usually start with level 1 part A. 8th graders usually start with level 1 part B. And if it's not offered with a face-to-face teacher, there might be an option through North Carolina Virtual Public Schools. I'll share a little bit more detail with you about that momentarily. There are some non-credit classes for students who are in middle school that maybe they're not ready to start that high school credit sequence. They might take a class in 6th grade called Exploratory 6th grade, or they might take something called Middle School French or Middle School Spanish. Those are not high school credit courses. There's usually only a semester long, but you can only take that course one time in the middle school. You cannot take it multiple times. Often our students who do start a high school sequence might start with the exploratory in the 6th grade and then do the 7th grade part A, 8th grade part B, and then go into level 2 in the 9th grade. And this positions students very well who are in, for example, into an international baccalaureate program so that they can reach those tested areas, or if they want to get to the advanced placement levels and so on. They do have to successfully complete part A to go into part B, and then successfully complete part B to earn that full credit for level 1 of that course. We recommend for students who speak Spanish at home or even another language at home that is offered in the building, it doesn't make sense for those students to sit in an exploratory class if they already speak the language at home. It's a little bit too simple for their proficiency level, and they won't be challenged. And we usually don't recommend that students that speak the language take level 1 either. We usually recommend, if they're a native Spanish speaker and Spanish for native speakers is offered in that building, that's the pathway they choose. They could choose a language other than what they take at home, which is always an option. If native speakers is not available, we usually recommend that they start with level 2. We can always do a placement test to see if they place higher. And if that course is not offered in your building, NCVPS is still an option for those advanced courses as well. We also have an infographic that we share with students, and families, of course, can have access to see this, about multilingual learners and world languages and what are the considerations and what are the usual options for those. And you can dive a little deeper into that document if you check back on this slide deck. So we mentioned the International Baccalaureate program a little bit earlier. We want to make sure that our IB students in that program are in the correct sequence. They have to finish level 3 by the end of 10th grade so that they can go into the advanced diploma level courses in 11th and 12th grade in their language. So if you have a student who's looking, again, where am I going from middle school into high school? Where am I in high school? You want to make sure that they have completed Honors 3 by the end of 10th grade. And if they haven't, we need to make sure that maybe they look at a summer school option. If they're in the 9th grade and they're only in level 1, they might have to double up in 10th grade and take 2 and 3 together in the 10th grade. We just know that they have to be ready to start those diploma level courses in the 11th grade. What about opportunities for world languages that are offered outside of CMS? Do we recognize some of those? The answer is absolutely yes, we do. So we talked about NCVPS briefly. So here is what NCVPS is. It is North Carolina Virtual Public School. We partner with NCVPS to offer classes that we don't necessarily have available in a particular school or in multiple schools. They hire highly qualified North Carolina licensed teachers. And for world languages, a school may choose to offer NCVPS courses, again, for a more advanced level than what they offer in their building, or for languages that are not offered in their building. So again, we try to encourage that heritage and native speakers might look at level 2 or higher, even in middle school. And middle school students have the opportunity, according to North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, they can take all the way up to honors level 4 in the middle school. We can't let them take the diploma level IB courses or AP courses in middle school, but they can go as high as honors 4. If you'd like to know more about NCVPS, that link is on the screen there for you. You may also have heard of something called Edgenuity. So Edgenuity is another online platform that offers courses for credit in CMS, but for world languages, the only approved Edgenuity world language course for new credit for us at all would be American Sign Language 1 and 2. All other world language courses to be taken online are only approved through North Carolina Virtual Public Schools. And you'll notice I've listed all the languages they offer They offer Arabic levels 1 through 3. We lost our Arabic program last year, unfortunately. They do have sign language, Chinese, French, German, Japanese, Latin, 2 levels of Russian, and then some levels of Spanish. Please note that the ones that are highlighted in yellow, the French, the German, and the Spanish, do not include a lot of interpersonal speaking. So we usually recommend those with caution. That's why they're in yellow. If there are other languages that are not listed here that you are interested in for your students, you can contact me and we can see if there is a viable option that we could find for you. But for now, we have the 7 opportunities through CMS, and now there are 9 opportunities through NCVPS. There's also an opportunity for students who are truly advanced in their language study and they have exhausted all of the options in their building. So if they've completed at least Honors 4 and maybe there's no AP offered for that language in their building, or if they've completed Honors 4 and AP and they want to still continue in that language, we do have a partnership through UNC Charlotte called the UNCC High Flyers program. And students who reach those high levels, if they apply to the program and there's funding available, they can earn dual credit. So a weighted, it'll have a 1-point weight for their GPA and CMS, and it would earn them college credit. That program is run by the Advanced Studies program. So the forms and reimbursement and all of that happens through Advanced Studies. If you have questions, you can reach out to me and I can always connect you with Advanced Studies as well. Additionally, some schools offer dual credit courses through our community colleges through CPCC. I just want to clarify that the 111 course at CPCC is equivalent to just the same as level 1 that students can take in our building. The 112 is equivalent to level 2. The 211 is equivalent to Honors 3, and the 212 is equivalent to Honors 4. So sometimes we've had students who take levels 1 and 2 with us, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to take that 111 class through CPCC, and they're kind of repeating the same content. So just be aware of that. If you want to know what all of the courses crosswalk to, North Carolina Department of Public Instruction has a crosswalk that shows this is the community college course, this is the equivalent high school course, and you're welcome to look at that for any language where they have an equivalent. We also have some non-CMS and that are like community language schools and charter schools where languages are taken for credit, and we have some things in place to ensure that we accept those credits. So the Bulgarian language school, Hebrew High, the Japanese language school of Charlotte, and the Canada language school all offer languages in their programs, and we have formal agreements on file to accept those courses and add them to our students' transcripts. Even if while they're enrolled in CMS and they bring the transcripts to us to add into PowerSchool. So we have that as a formal agreement. And then, of course, there are those charter and independent schools like the Charlotte Jewish Day School, Charlotte Lab School, Metro Atlanta Regional Scholars Academy, Socrates, and so on. Sugar Creek Charter, I could list them all. If they offer credit on their transcript, we, of course, add those into our transcript just like we would with any other transfer credits. So we're very excited that we are able to honor that students come to us with their home languages or additional language study, and that we can include them on their transcript, which is fantastic. Now, there is something called the Global Languages Endorsement. It is actually the North Carolina Seal of Biliteracy. All the endorsements are earned, and forgive me, I'm just going to click through this so this all shows at the same time. All of those endorsements are earned upon graduating from a high school in North Carolina. So the Global Languages Endorsement started around 1995, and it allows a student to demonstrate proficiency in English and at least one other language. We have students who've earned it in as many as 3 other languages in addition to English, which is fantastic. They've also updated how you can demonstrate your proficiency in English. It used to be that you had to demonstrate by taking your high school English courses, had to have a certain GPA of an unweighted 2.5 of just those English courses in high school. But as of this year, you now can also demonstrate that English proficiency through a specific test, like a portion of the SAT and so on. I will give you links to be able to look at those tests and what those scores are. And then on the world language side, you can either complete level 4 or higher with an unweighted GPA of 2.5, or you can use an assessment like a stamp test, an AP exam, an IB exam, or other certain exams that are listed by NCDPI, and you have to demonstrate at least intermediate mid proficiency in that language. And again, students have been able to demonstrate this in multiple languages. It goes on their transcript, and it's a wonderful opportunity. Some universities outside of North Carolina even recognize that seal of biliteracy for credit. If you have questions about that global languages endorsement, our seal of biliteracy, there's an FAQ document here, but I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to give you links to everything. There's a little infographic here with a QR code, but on this next slide, 39, anything you ever and never wanted to know about the global languages endorsement or our seal of biliteracy, all of those links are here on this slide for you. So you're welcome to dig deeper. You can also reach out to me if you have additional questions. And then let's talk about something called credit by demonstrated mastery. So credit by demonstrated mastery is a process that students in middle and high school can do to earn credit for a course without taking the course. There's usually a two-phase process. It involves an assessment, and then if they're successful on the assessment for phase 1, then there's another step for phase 2. For world languages, our credit by demonstrated mastery process would be very appropriate for anybody who speaks the language at home. It could also be appropriate for former dual language immersion students that decided not to continue in that pathway through high school, or students who lived and studied in another country for a year or more, or anyone who has any extensive language outside of CMS. It is not usually intended for students who don't speak that language and just want to kind of skip level 1 to get ahead, that they're usually not successful in the CDM process. But it is very appropriate for those other students that we mentioned and that are shown on the screen. And we have students who've done the credit by demonstrated mastery process for multiple languages. So I'm going to give an example. We had a young student from the Ukraine who took the credit by demonstrated mastery test for Ukrainian, Russian, and because they had lived in Portugal, he also did it for Portuguese and was quite successful with the process for all 3 of those languages. So assuming that the student graduates and does well to demonstrate the English as well, that student's transcript will have our seal of biliteracy, the global languages endorsement for all 3 of those languages, which is fantastic. And just to let you know, these are the languages that we currently have some sort of assessment for. And that includes American Sign Language. We have a way to do that. We have had a few students test because they use sign language as their primary mode of communication, which is fantastic. And you can see all of these other languages that are currently available for us. So if this is of interest to you, please reach out to your school's counselor to find out how to apply for the credit by demonstrated mastery process. And then we will be happy to make those arrangements and get that assessment rolling for you. So who do you call if you have questions? If you have questions about dual language immersion, world languages, global languages endorsement, I am your contact person. If you have questions with more detail about credit by demonstrated mastery and virtual learning, our current contact person in the Advanced Studies office is Amanda Acock, but you can always reach out to me and I can connect you. And then if you have questions about the UNCC High Flyers program, our current contact is Caitlin Brick, also in the Advanced Studies department, but again, I am happy to connect you as well. So before we transition to Christina Mahar's portion, I just want you to pause and just take a moment to reflect. Think about what language options you currently have in your student's homeschool or in whatever that homeschool will be for middle or high school. And then what options would you like to explore for your student or your students at home? Maybe you're thinking about the magnet lottery process right now. Maybe you're thinking about the credit by demonstrated mastery process, or maybe you have a student who's already involved in languages and you weren't aware of our seal of biliteracy through the Global Languages endorsement. So think about those are some things that might be of interest to you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this over to Christina.
Thank you, Mara. I appreciate that. So I am very excited to share with you about study abroad. Again, my name is Christina Mahar. I'm the Global Studies Specialist, and I have the wonderful opportunity to really support families as they consider this option. So first of all, I would like to talk about what CMS does for you in terms of supporting you through this process of determining if this is something you want to do. My contact information is there on the screen, and it'll be available too at the end as well. But you please, any questions as they arise, you can ask them now and reach out to us that way as well. If you can go to the next slide. Thank you. And the next one. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we do here in CMS to support you and your students as you make this choice. So what our office does is we really provide you information and support you either one-on-one through an online meeting or meeting in person. I can meet at the school to talk about the variety of programs available to study abroad. Our office collaborates very closely with these programs to ensure all the paperwork, considerations of transcripts take place as we make decisions for students and thinking through what steps to take as we prepare. We also coordinate events at schools. If there are a group of parents who would like to hear more and have an opportunity to talk more about it, we coordinate that as well. We support our families, our students, and our counselors through the process and every step of the process as you prepare to ensure we really have those conversations about transcripts and courses that might count for credit upon return. We also encourage and facilitate this great opportunity. I have had the pleasure of working with many students who have studied abroad or had an opportunity to travel, and it is life-changing, and I can testify that it has certainly supported me too. So we encourage that here in CMS, and we help you every step of the way. The one thing that we do not do is we don't personally, CMS doesn't place students abroad. We work with organizations and different programs to make that step to place students abroad. On the next slide, there are a variety, if you can go to the next slide. Oh, perfect. There are different types of study abroad programs. Students could study abroad long term, which would be an entire semester. It could be the first semester or second semester of school, or they can go for an entire year. An additional option for students who are finishing up at CMS, they might want to take a gap year, which is the year in between once they've graduated from CMS and then before they start, if they're pursuing college, that year where they can start earning credit towards potentially the college that they will be going to. So those are the long-term options. There's also short-term options where students could maybe go abroad for a few weeks, 3 to 8 weeks over the summer. Some families choose to do that so that there's no interrupted time of missing school when they want to study abroad. On the next slide, here is an infographic just to kind of guide you through that process of studying abroad. This helps you see the very first step is planning. I can't emphasize that enough. You can start as early as middle school. Our study abroad opportunity is available for CMS high school students, but as soon as middle school, I encourage families, if this is something you are considering for your child to start, or for students that are really thinking through this is something that they would love to look into, to start doing their research. And in a moment, I'll share several links of places you can begin. But that's the best part, is to start planning early in middle school so that you can really determine what year and start thinking through what your schedule in school and what courses you want to take in order to ensure you're taking the credits you need here in CMS and making sure you're thinking through what grade you want to study abroad. It also gives you a chance to really get to know the programs. There's a variety of programs and many different countries, a lot of scholarship opportunities. And being able to plan ahead really allows you to see when those opportunities are available. A lot of times, students can write essays right into the program to see if that's something that can be funded in scholarships opportunity for them. But again, that requires a little think time and planning on the family's part to ensure that those steps are taken, and there's plenty of time to plan for that. The next step, we always encourage our students. I get emails almost daily from kids saying, I really am interested. Can you tell me more? So I'm always happy to meet with students and families and always encourage for that to be a conversation. When I do set up a meeting with families, is with parents and students, is what I prefer to be both available so that we can talk through all those options and make sure this is the right fit for your student. And then the next part is to really involve our counselors. Oh, we're still on the same infographic. Just the next step on that infographic is to involve our high schoolers. If you can go back one more, thank you. To involve our high school counselors. Those are the people who really are going to support you the most through this process because they will know your student, they will know their class schedule, they can collaborate to see what credits they're still needing, what credits they currently have as we make decisions to study abroad. And then, of course, once that occurs, there's a lot of opportunities to look also about financial, looking through scholarship opportunity, grants that are available, health and insurance, and the considerations to take for that. Getting all the paperwork ready, such as visas if necessary, and passports to be updated in time. And then also the pre-departure orientation forms. And I'm going to show you in a moment what those forms look like. So the next thing I want to talk about is the study abroad programs, the policies, and the paperwork we have. So if we go the next few slides, the paperwork that the first thing I wanted to share is selecting the study abroad program. The very first step is to really, like I said before, do that planning and the due diligence of looking at the different programs available. There are many. There are several that are certified through the Council Standards for Educational and International Travel. That link is there on the screen. There are 2 programs that are certified. There's also the U.S. State Department also provides federally funded programs. So there's a link to that too. Mara, if you want to click on that one just so that we could see what that one looks like, you'll see a variety of opportunities for students that they can consider applying, getting their contact information so that someone can reach out to them to find out all the different federally funded programs that are available to our students. And then another link that was on that slide, the next 2 links, there's one called USA Study Abroad. This is a great place to start if you are just wanting to consider, okay, what are the different programs? What are the different countries? Where can I be going? I like this as a starting place. You would just click that you're a US student, you'll start exploring, and I encourage families to sit down together and really start looking through what they're wanting, what languages they want to pursue, what are their goals through the study abroad process in terms of short and long-term goals. So these websites can really give you a lot of information about what they're willing to offer. The last one, the Go Overseas link. This one is nice because it allows you to filter through locations, subject areas, or any kind of different filters that you can do so that it kind of guides you. If your student is really wanting to focus on a particular language or particular country that they really want to visit, this allows you to kind of narrow down. As I said, there are a lot of programs out there, so this allows you to narrow down exactly which ones to get you started. So I encourage you to go to those links to support you as you begin that planning process. On the next slide, this is the paperwork that we require at CMS prior to your travel and prior to departure. So the very first one is the study abroad interest form. This is where the students will fill out when they're first wanting to start the planning process. They're in high school, they've looked at several programs, they've talked to their parents, and they're interested. This is the form that you will fill out to begin the process and to let the counselor and myself know where you're wanting to go, what steps you're wanting to take, what year you're planning on going in, what grade you're currently in. So this can be done and shared with both your counselor and with our office as well, so that it initiates the process to help us know you're interested and we can get the support you need. The paperwork that you see on the right, the pre-departure transcript review form, this form is important once we are ready. The program is selected, the student knows where they're going abroad, and we're working closely with the program. This is the paperwork we need to determine what the transcript will be like, what future courses you're planning on taking, and having that conversation with the counselor and with families to talk about what potential courses could transfer, what courses might still be required from the student to complete upon return, so that all of those kinks are worked out before we go. We can never guarantee that every course you take will transfer, but we certainly will work with you. The biggest step to this process is filling out these forms, but also bringing back an official transcript from whatever country and school the student was in back to CMS. The programs that you use support and facilitate that, but that does fall under the responsibility of the family to make sure those papers and official transcripts are brought back, so that upon return, we can work with you to get those as many transcript credits to count towards courses here in CMS. So that pre-departure form really helps us have those conversations and think through that process before the student actually goes on their student study abroad opportunity. On the next slide, I also wanted to share the policies that we have for graduation requirements. There's a lot of times parents during our meetings have a lot of questions about worrying, I want to make sure they have enough credits to graduate. How do I know exactly how many credits are needed? How will this affect the trajectory of graduation? So those policies I have just for you, for your awareness, so that you know exactly the expectations and the policies and the graduation requirements here in CMS. So that will be helpful for you as you start your planning process as well. And then on the bottom, there's important information and safety measures. So we have a lot of links here for our travel advisory. This one right here, the first link, the travel advisory website, really allows you to research a little bit that country. So if you know that you want your student to study in a particular location, this allows you to see all the paperwork required, the safety features, vaccination information, anything you need to know. There's even a STEP program that allows a family to register and find out update information about the very country they're wanting to visit. I highly recommend that you register and have information, and it's wonderful because they'll even send text information of any updates and changes to that country, any information you need to know. So that's a wonderful website to really stay informed about the country and really learn about any necessary paperwork or steps, or even I think there's a place for packing and knowing what to take abroad. So I highly recommend you really being actively searching this link and joining that STEP program to receive those alerts. On the slide, the next link is our CDC link, just to really keep us informed if there's any changes health-wise, vaccines that are required for those countries that are visiting. It allows you to really research that country and see what medications and information and vaccinations you might need prior to travel. And then the last link is also USA Study Abroad. I put it again there, which allows you to really look at the medical information, anything you need to know about insurance. If you don't have your own insurance and you're needing that, this website allows you to see what you can apply for to get support in that capacity. So those links are available for you to really look through before studying abroad. And then on the next slide, These are additional links and information as a parent. I'm a parent, CMS parent too, and I'm the kind of person I want to learn as much as I possibly can before my student studies abroad. So these are really great links and blogs of parents trying to determine and decipher and students trying to think through this process. So I highly recommend, if this is something you're on the fence about, if you're really concerned and you're like, yeah, I'd like to love a little bit more about the pros and cons, we're available to support you through that. But these are links to give you more information, to dig a little deeper and hear from other parents and families who've been through this process. There's a book there available, there's a blog. So really, I encourage you to, if this is something that you and your family are considering, to explore these links to see how this can support you in that decision to study abroad. The next slide is our study abroad FAQs. I try to gather as I meet our families and meet our students, there's a lot of questions that arise. So this is a live document, and so we will add as questions go, but I have captured every question that has come across in my meetings thus far. The number one thing and the number one question I get the most is, can my student take virtual classes while they're abroad? Because they don't want them to miss anything or miss out on anything in CMS. And unfortunately, the answer is no, because once you study abroad, you are required to unenroll from CMS to then enroll in the country and school that you're attending. And then those transcripts will then come back with you when you re-enroll upon entering, so that we can then give you credit for as much as we can. So that is something that is to be considered. There are many students who are seniors and think, I would love to go study abroad my senior year. If the choice is to go all year, then you're withdrawing from CMS, which will not allow you to graduate with your class. So those are considerations and things we want to talk about right now as early as we can before, so that our students don't feel like, oh, I wish I had known this information prior. So we're really trying to get that message out there. A lot of these questions are having to do with credits, with what grade should I, study abroad. All that information is there and available for you. If there's a question that is not on here that you have, please feel free to email us and let us know, and we'll be happy to add that question and the answers to that question on this document as well. So let's see on the next slide. That is it for now. We want to make sure we give plenty of time to answer any questions any of you have. So please feel free to do that now. And again, our bit.ly is on the screen for anyone who needs to access all the great links and information in our presentation. I don't see any questions on the Q&A, but we'll certainly be here. We have about 10 minutes or so left that we're happy if anyone wants to unmute or add in the Q&A. We're happy to address any questions that either I covered in Study Abroad or Mara did with our world language information.
And for those of you who had questions in the chat, I tried to answer them for you. If you have additional questions or that wasn't a clear enough answer, please let me know, and I'm happy to clarify.
Mara, if you would like to read those out loud so they could be included in the recording.
Absolutely. So the first question that we had gotten was, will you clarify what the options are for non-native speakers who didn't start with a dual language program in kindergarten? For example, if I wanted my rising fourth grader to attend a one-way program, what are our options? So please keep in mind that the students in the dual language immersion programs are getting their content in the language. So if you want to enter a program after kindergarten, you still have to have some proficiency in the language. There is a late entry process, which is outlined on the cmschoice.org website. It will involve a language proficiency assessment because your student will need to come in and be able to understand the math and science instruction that's coming at them in that language. So the late entry process is not for students who don't have any language experience. They don't have to be native speakers, but they have to have at least some language proficiency to be able to be successful in their grade level content in that language. Okay, the next question we had, I have an 8th grader in the Chinese program at the North Academy of World Languages. She most likely will not be attending North Mech in the World Language program and will be attending our home high school, Hopewell. Can she continue taking Chinese via virtual class there? The answer is yes. NCVPS does currently offer online Chinese through Honors 4. Keep in mind that NCVPS owns their courses, so if they could have a change where they might take a course offline occasionally, so we just need to be mindful of their timeline and if they're making any changes, because we have new standards coming for world languages, which may impact that. But the short answer is yes, but we still need to pay attention to any changes NCVPS might have. We had another question. Are there options for students to learn a language through CMS who do not have it offered in their school currently? And so the answer is yes. For students in middle and high school, they may take courses through NCVPS. Your principal would need to approve that student take that course so that you would have the necessary support so that it would hopefully be offered during their elective class period so that they could work on it during the school day at school. They would need a headset and so on, or earbuds, so that they can interact, do the listening and watch the videos and be involved in those language programs. But yeah, as long as your principal approves it, you should have options for all those things through NCVPS that are available. Another question was, how can my middle school go beyond the world language level 1 and 2 via NCVPS? Again, whatever NCVPS offers, and I put that link in the question and answer, please work with your school counselor to request the language or level that your student may need. If it turns out we need to do a placement test first, that is an option as well, just to make sure that we place your student in the correct level. And then, are the German A2 tests available to null students as well? So that is a very specific test from the German government. The answer is they will be, but your students were not yet articulated to 4th and 5th grade for those options. I know that we were trying to also make that happen again because we used to also do some testing in the 8th grade. The answer is it's coming. It will be available. It's just we haven't had the students feeding to that level with enough numbers for us to have a teacher to get certified and so on. So that is on the agenda to happen. Don't think we have any other questions beyond that at the moment. There's another question that's just come up. Oh, again, please don't forget to provide feedback for today's session. The link is there in the Q&A for you.
So again, we just want to remind you, all our links and information to reach us is there. We have the Study Abroad folder and website, links to all the world language information, and both of our emails. If you need anything at all, if questions arise, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. And we thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. Again, anything comes up, just let us know. Here's some of the information and links to the study abroad. And then, of course, Mara's information is available as well. We'll be here for another extra 5 minutes. If additional questions arise, don't hesitate to reach out. We will hang on for a little bit longer. But if not, you are, of course, this is the end of the session. The recording will be shared with you in the future. And please don't forget to leave us some feedback.